Hey everybody, Chad with Stellarbot, and this is Guitar Module 1.3. In this video, we are going to be talking about major intervals, or intervals built on the major scale. And an interval is the distance from one note to the next. And what I'm going to do is kind of teach you guys some techniques to help you identify, using your ear, how to listen for the distance or the separation between notes. And that is a very useful skill because that's kind of the some of the fundamentals to learning how to play by ear. In the last video we talked about the major scale and what the steps are, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically, instead of going sequentially up the neck one note at a time, we are going to go from the first note, or the root of the scale, all the way up to any note on the scale, and learn how to identify that distance by ear. And what we're going to do is we are going to kind of match each interval with a familiar song, so that when you hear that interval, you'll associate it with that song and be like, oh, okay, I know that distance between those two notes because it fits with this song. So what I mean by that is we are going to name the intervals based on how many notes it takes to get there from the root. So we're going to call the root of the scale number one, note number one, and I'm just going to use my high E string because that's what I did last time. And so the second note in the scale, which is in this case F sharp, or the second fret, we are going to call that a second. So the interval of a second, because they are next door neighbors, or they are two notes apart if the root is the first one. So that is a second. The next step would be that one right there, which is the first note to the third note. And so we're going to call it a third. So that is a major third. So we're going to call them major thirds and minor, or major second and major third, because we can also have minor second and minor third, which would be, that would be a minor second, and that would be a minor third. For now, we are going to stick with the major intervals. So this is a major third. And then when we get to the next two, the fourth and the fifth, those two there, those actually don't have major and minor counterparts, and so in music theory terms they just call them perfect. So perfect fourth, perfect fifth. You don't really need to remember that. If you can just remember fourth and fifth. There is a what we call an augmented fourth slash diminished fifth, which is this one, which it's a very odd sounding jump right there, but that is not part of our scale. So right now we're just going to stick with major second, major third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and octave. So octave is oct as in 8, as in an octopus has 8 legs, and October is the 10th month. I don't know why that is, but anyway, so an octave is one note to its next highest note. So that would be like E to the next highest E, because remember, music is the same, like 12 notes repeated over and over and over and over. And so that is what we call an octave. So now let's take each one of those one at a time, and we're going to kind of match it with a familiar song. So if we did a second, well, those are the first two notes, or rather the second and the third note of Happy Birthday, like Happy Birthday. So when you hear that, that is one step up, and that is the sound of Happy Birthday. So you could say, Happy Birthday second. Okay, so that is the second. So I want you to remember Happy Birthday on that one. The next one would be here, the third. Listen for that. So the jump gets a little bit bigger that time. Now, you don't have to pick the same songs that I pick. If you recognize certain songs that go with these intervals. I want you to pick songs that are familiar enough to you that you could match it with an interval and just remember it every single time. I'm picking ones that are fairly traditional just because they've been around forever and everybody recognizes them. So that right there. Oh, when the saints. So that's those first two notes. Oh, when the saints. So that is a major third. So you could say, oh, third the saints go thirding in. So that is your major third right there, okay? So those are the first two. You have major second, happy birthday, or second birthday. Oh, third the saints. So the next one is going to be our fourth, which is only a half step higher. Let's do the fourth. So the third, or the fourth, comes right after the third, so it's on the next fret because they're a half step apart. So that right there reminds me of a couple songs. So amazing grace, amazing. So Amazing Grace. Another one would be if all acquaintance be forgot. So that is Auld Lang Syne. That's the song that they sing at New Year's Eve. So that is a fourth as well. So you could say amazing fourth, or fourth amazing grace. Whatever you want to do. Something that's going to help you remember that. The next one is going to be the fifth, and the fourth and the fifth are a whole step apart. And that is, you recognize that? How about this? Now you recognize it. Twinkle, twinkle. So it's not the first two notes of the song, but it's the twinkle, twinkle right there. So that is the fifth. Now that is going to be an interval that you hear a lot. So you're definitely going to want to get to know the fifth because it appears in just about every chord that we're going to use. And later on, when we get into power chord shapes on guitar, that is only the root in the fifth, like those are just two note shapes we call power chords. We'll get into those later. And those are the interval of the fifth being played together. So it's going to be really prudent for you to learn that sound by ear. So again, it's twinkle, twinkle, little fifth. Whatever's going to help you remember that. The next one is going to be the sixth, which is, those are a whole step apart as well. And if I'm going by frets, by the way, you can use the dots on the top of your neck to kind of help you keep track. Some guitars start the dots at the 5th fret, and then you have a dot on the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th, and then usually the 12th. Mine happens to have one on the 3rd fret as well. So if you can remember that the first couple dots, the first 3 or the first 4, depending on where yours start on your guitar, those are all odd numbered frets, so you can kind of use those to kind of help you keep track of where you are on the neck at any given time. And so far, our first 2 intervals, the second and the third, if I'm using the E string or using a root from an open string, any string actually, those are in between the dots, and then the 4th and the 5th and the 6th, those are going to be on the dots. There's my 4th. There's my 5th. So that's the 5th fret for the interval of a 4th. So don't get the frets and the intervals confused. 5th fret, but interval of a 4th. Or 7th fret, interval of a 5th. So what we're doing is we're keeping track of kind of 2 different systems of numbers. You have your fret numbers, and then you have your scale note numbers. So we've got the interval of a 5th, and the next one is the 6th, which is that right there. That's a big jump. Any songs come to mind for you right there? It came upon a midnight clear. So it came upon a midnight clear starts with that 6 right there. Here's another one. Recognize that? NBC, ding. Trademark. All right. The last one is going to be, well, not the last one, the second to last one is going to be the 7th, which is this right here. That's kind of a tense sounding interval, isn't it? So this is what we call a major 7th. We call it a major 7th because you can also have a minor 7th as well right here. But this one's a major 7th. This is the one that's going to be in the major scale. This is why we call it a major 7th. So there's the songs on this one are kind of tricky. There's a song called Popular by a band called Not a Surf, which kind of starts on that. If you want to go, you can check that out on YouTube. Not a Surf's Popular. Another one is Charlie Brown's Christmas Time is Here. So if I go Christmas time. So you have to kind of imagine those two being played at the same time. So if you listen to it, Christmas time is here. So that is the major 7th. The other way that you could remember that is that it doesn't sound like anything else, and it's such a big jump that if you go 1/2 step higher, you are at the octave. So sometimes it helps to just do the octave and then drop it down 1/2 step. So that 7th is also just going to be a 1/2 step down from the root. So then the last interval is going to be the octave, which happens to be the 12th fret, and so they have conveniently marked it for us with a dot on guitar. So the 12th fret is kind of special because it is the same note as your open string. So you could literally play all, and that is the same as going. So this is what we call the octave from the open note, or in this case, E to shining E. Now, if you want a song, I mean, that's a pretty easy interval to hear because it's the same note, but the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow starts with those two. Somewhere over the rainbow. So put that to memory. And what you can do is you can either come up with your own set of songs, or you can use the ones that I have provided for you. But you want to kind of find some way to memorize the interval with the octave. So maybe what you can do is kind of put that, insert the interval name into the lyric somewhere, kind of cheesily like I was doing, like somewhere octave the rainbow. So something like that, something that's going to help you to remember. And so the other thing is, as you listen to music, you can kind of pick out jumps, whether they're being played on instruments or being done lyrically with voices. And as you listen to your favorite songs and favorite bands, listen for those distances or those jumps from one note to the next, and see if you can pick out what the intervals are, because that is a super useful skill. Alright, thanks for watching this video, everyone. I will see you in the next video where we are going to talk about how to build chords, and we're going to do our first chord shapes on guitar. It's going to be good. Check it out.